The following program is sponsored in part by To a Woman's Heart. The thoughts and views expressed by the following production don't necessarily reflect those of the network or any sponsors. Rainbow Room Publishing Live, starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, Senyah. Good evening. How are you?
Hello. Good evening. I am simply outstanding. How you doing, Robin?
Doing very well. Just wanted to give a brief introduction to you. Senyah is actually another veteran contributor from a Black perspective, both the blood and the people. She actually has a major part when it comes to the artwork for both cover pieces. She contributes in a way that she writes both literary art works, transitions, and Shatter. I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about what you contributed in both pieces and what struck me most. So transitions for me, I understand the story is a myriad of stories regarding unprocessed trauma in the lives of people in the Black community. Can you share the significance of the collision of these particular characters and their lives depicted throughout the story?
Sure. I like the use of the word collision, because what is that? It's jarring, it's sudden, it's unexpected. Well, I guess sometimes collisions are expected, but I like the jarring aspect of it. I think that the significance is that when you switch perspectives, as transitions does, it will be a slice of life for one group or person, and then that momentary encounter they have with someone else, we shift to their perspective and what's going on. And I think that, I don't know, it's like that's a big part of the human experience. We're just kind of like all atoms bumping into each other, some group together for longer bouts of times and some just kind of bump apart, you know? And the significance is really that the thought of looking through someone else's eyes at the moment of meeting is an exercise I've been doing all my life. I remember doing that as a child. I would be in the car driving, my mom would drive, and I just look and I see someone else in their car. And then I realized, just like I'm looking at them and my mom's yelling at me or whatever, they're looking at me and they've got some life thing going on. And, you know, it can just jump. That has always just really fascinated me. So I guess the significance of the collision is that we are all colliding, if you will, in and out of other people's experiences. And I wanted to see how there is like an unbroken chain, really. And I thought it would be interesting to explore that.
Thank you so much for that. I figured you'd have a similar response, Senyah. The most compelling of stories within transitions to me was the story of Shonda, a grieving Black mother and wife, and hardworking attorney Bruce. How could Shonda live without the love of the two that she adored most, her son and her husband, who had been taken at the hands of police? And then also, Bruce seems to have had it hard wearing so many hats, trying to strike work-life balance. Can you share how this story was developed?
So you're talking about that particular segment of the entire story?
Yes, ma'am.
So Shonda, well, as with most of my work, I consider myself like a literary quilter or collage artist, if you will. I live a life.
All of this is layered.
Yeah. I experience things and I just curate different pieces and put them together. So, most of my work, maybe all of it, like, it will have something that's real somewhere, you know. Unfortunately, I've met at least 2 to 3 Shondas where, I live on the south side of Chicago. I involve myself in different, restorative practices, peace circles, healing circles. And I've met 2 to 3 Shondas where, yes, the police killed my child. Yes, they killed my man. And it's like, my God. So like, those are real people. I like the interplay between her and lawyer Bruce, who not living her life, doesn't live in her hood, doesn't live, he has his own set of privilege. He's living actually in a state of privilege where she's living in a state of deprivation. His biggest thing is like, oh my God, how can I handle these quads that I've been blessed with via whatever, method we were able to have these children. And she's like dealing with the loss of a child, and their worlds have collided, if you will, in the effort to go forth with this lawsuit. I don't know. You asked a little like, how does she go on? Having lost both of them, and that's the thing. People either do or they don't. They kind of soldier on how they can, or unfortunately they don't.
Now, the literary work of Shatter and the people is actually more or less a singular piece when it comes to all of the stories that are unparalleled in transitions. Now, Shatter to me, the setting and family dynamic was developed very early in the story, giving a sense of community and support from sister to sister. I know the auntie-niece relationship. I know the auntie-nephew relationship in the Black community very well, and I believe it's beneficial to the family structure. As Faye's auntie was leaving work on the day of Harmony's death, was she inclined to check on Harmony because she suspected she'd transition or pass away? What happened there?
So, once the person puts the art out, it's up to viewers or, consumers' interpretation. But that was more of a spiritual sense. That was not that Harmony had some, she was a ticking time bomb and she had some illness that was waiting to, get her. That was just, that was that auntie you got that just like knows things sometimes. Something told me to call you, or something told me, don't go down that street. I've definitely got them in my family. I don't know about you, but if it's not auntie, it's big mama or somebody who's like, no, not today, babe. Don't do that. So really, and I try to illustrate that, in just some light phrases where like, the little girl, who's listening to her auntie say, go check on her. She okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Go check on her again. The little girl, she had a feeling in her gut, even though she didn't really perceive it. It's just slight, So yeah, that was not indicative of any sickness. That was indicative of just family intuition.
And I kind of had that strong indicator too, being as though you use such a mysterious way that, Harmony died due to an aneurysm, but then later on in the story, we found out that she was born as more or less a miracle, having suffered something, but that was also something that wasn't underlying. But an aneurysm sometimes comes up and you're like, well, the vein just burst,
That's literally like, oh, it was just clearly their time, because that is so random. Yeah.
Yes.
For a
Thank
child.
you for that.
Yeah.
I have another question about this story. So Harmony was younger than Faye or Sprinkles. Her death was very sad to read about, but the way you depicted how she was dressed was just simply lovely at the time of her funeral and her family viewing her. It was as if she'd be able to play in heaven in her red dress, red tights, and white Mary Jane shoes. When reading about the ruby ring that was placed on her finger by her mom, I was reminded of how women are described in the Bible and how we should be cherished as if we are precious, more precious than rubies. And that can actually be found in Proverbs 3:15. Can you talk about what this scene symbolizes, and particularly her dress?
Absolutely. So I will say I am not a biblical scholar, so that was not a biblical reference, but thank you for that. People and everyone has their perspectives and they will see different things. So I like that's out there. Red is many kind of color. It's a power color. It's a vital color. It's vibrant and it is lively. And I like to play with the juxtaposition. So she's dead. She's dead in a casket. She's as far from vibrant and vital as can be. Yet this is her final adornment, right? It's her final garb. And the ring just kind of seals the deal. It's just a token to show how precious a child is to a mother, that she's going to go and expend and the care to put this little detail that will never be seen, just because love is so deep. And this is going to be my last time to play doll baby with my little girl. It's not mentioned in the book in the story explicitly, but as I was writing Harmony's character was envisioned to be about 8. So I don't know about you when you were 8, but my mom loved dressing me in these little dresses, and like that was her thing. I was her doll,
Yes.
Till I got old enough to really protest.
Yes,
So
I wore dresses every day of my primitive years, so I understand.
yeah,
And tights.
yeah. So this was Mama's really last time to have that kind of experience with her child. So I think that it's just one of those little details that kind of heighten the tragedy of it.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for the positive responses that you've given today, Senyah. And I want to thank you so much for putting me into a place where I was able to cry while reading this last piece, Shatter. So just continue to do what you do. And thank you for your contributions to this anthology. I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, Robin. You too. Enjoy the balance of your weekend.
You too, Senyah. Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Senyah Haynes, and I'm the author of the Jayla's Jaunt series. And the reason I love Jayla and Auntie Yaya and their magical adventures is because they're full of history and culture and fun, and I am excited to share all of that with you. In Jayla's Jaunt, cruising down California, Auntie Yaya and Jayla ride down the coast and make several important stops along the way. They witness the Black Panthers serving breakfast to school children in the Bay Area. They visit a state park named for a very extraordinary colonel. And in the City of Angels, they learn how Miss Biddy Mason escaped after her former enslaver tried to pull a caper. Jayla's Jaunt, cruising down California, now available from the publisher, Palindrome Global Publishing and Events. To contact the publisher, palindromeglobal@gmail.com. For our website, www.palindromeglobal.com.
You gotta do it. Yes, sir. You gotta come together. Huh. Yes, sir. Look out.
Groove with Aswell Passport and the Love Sessions Orchestra, Monday nights at the Freeman Cajun Cafe and Lounge in Dallas, Texas, and stream their music everywhere.
Did you know that healthier employees generally take less time off from work, increase productivity, and help lower employers' insurance premiums? Who wouldn't want that? Invest in your employees' well-being with Eating Well with Chef Cordell's Corporate Wellness Program. You'll be helping your employees reduce stress, manage their time, and improve their health with customized wellness programs. Keep your team healthy by scheduling a virtual corporate wellness program today.
Check out Aswell Pasworth, AZWALF, HAZWORF, and Love Sessions Orchestra, and Eat Well with Chef Cordell, CORDELL.com.
Welcome back to From a Black Perspective. We're here with the author, Senyah Haynes. Hi, Senyah.
Hey, JD, how you doing?
I'm good. It's good to see you again. Of course, in Dallas, we're having some crazy weather, but other than that, it's a great day. It's a great day. You guys, Senyah is the author of Jayla's Jaunts, a children's book series of a little girl and her magical aunt, who takes a journey from state to state learning Black culture. She's also contributed to the series with her provocative short stories, Transitions, and From a Black Perspective, The Blood. Senyah is also the primary illustrator, and also having contributed to Abolition, the cover, of the Blood and Voyage, which features a slave ship to the cover of the People. Now, Senior, you can go ahead and start with your reading.
All right. Thank you very much, JD. So I'm going to read an excerpt from my piece in the book entitled Shatter. 5 days after Christmas, on a Saturday morning illuminated with the undaunted light of California's winter sun, a little girl sat in her living room enthralled with the morning cartoons. She was in that giddy age range between toddlerhood and teens, her knowledge of the world somewhere between wise beyond her years and hopelessly naive. Childhood so far had danced along the spectrum from raw euphoria to tepid misery, the low end comprising her parents' divorce, having to switch schools, and the hard time she was having with that funny new math. 3 kids needing to divide the love, time, and money of one parent instead of 2. In the back of her house, her family lay sleeping: mother, younger sister, and baby brother. A few cities away, her live-in aunt was finishing the night shift. Fred Flintstone was hollering at Wilma when the telephone rang. Hello? Hey, gal. Auntie! The little girl squealed with delight. Her aunt was by far her favorite human being. What are you doing? Watching cartoons. What's your mom and Todd doing? Sleep. What's Harmony doing? Same. Gal, do me a favor. Why don't you go check on her, okay? I'll wait. It was an odd request, but then again, Auntie was an odd sort. She read 12 newspapers a day, ate every meal standing over the kitchen sink, and liked to drown Barbies because of some bizarre contempt for all things prissy. Taking all this into consideration, the little girl decided not to ask, but just to acquiesce. Hold on, she said, resting the phone on the kitchen counter. There was Harmony in bed as expected. The little girl opened the door and stood at the entrance, not going all the way in. It was cold in there. She looked to her bed, 3 feet from her sister's, and wondered if she should straighten the comforter. She decided not to. She looked at Harmony again, whose nightgown had bunched itself around her waist, allowing her bare legs to show. They were in the shape of a 4. The right one bent and crossed over her straight left one. The 2-toned quilt was under her to the left and loosely wrapped around her arm. Her barrettes had come out sometime during the night, and her hair was a natty mess. The little girl didn't know why she stared at her sister's chest for such a long time. She got her answer when finally her eyes told her that it was rising and falling. Harmony lay half twisted with her face turned to the side. It was a scene the little girl had seen 1,000 times before. She skipped back to the kitchen and picked up the phone. Yeah, she's fine. Okay, Auntie giggled. The relief in her voice gave the little girl's spirit pause, though she didn't consciously perceive it. I have to run. I don't want to miss my bus. I love you. I love you too. Bye. The little girl hung up the phone and went to join the Flintstones. An hour later, Auntie called again and asked the same questions. Who was up? Where was Harmony? And would the little girl go check on her? Once again, she walked to the bedroom to go check on Harmony. Yep, same scene. Leg in a 4, quilt around the arm, hair a rat's nest, and face to the side. She walked back to the phone and reported that everything was cool, then asked if she could finally get back to her Looney Tunes. All right, gal, calm down, Auntie said, erupting in that giggle that made people swear she wasn't old enough to vote. Sitting back in front of the TV, grateful to finally be left alone, the little girl began to hear stirring in the back. After a while, Mama came down the hallway with Todd, both fully dressed. She sat him in the little girl's lap and went to the door to get the stroller. Morning, Sprinkles. Hi, Mama. How long you been up? A few hours. Harmony still asleep, Sprinkles volunteered, thinking that would surely be her mother's next question. Well, I'm going to take my little man through the park. He refuses to nap anymore. I know, Manny Man, she cooed down at Todd to draw out his smile. My goodness, it's almost 11. Mama got a late start this morning, didn't she? Yes, she did. Yes, she did. She picked up her baby, who was all smiles and fat cheeks, and lovingly put him in the stroller. Sprinkles, we're gone. Don't let her sleep. Don't let her sleep too long. Okay. Todd blew a raspberry as he rolled out the door, and finally Sprinkles was left in peace. Later, as she watched TV, something kept gnawing at her gut. She was probably subconsciously tuning her ear, waiting for the phone to ring, but it didn't. It was going on 11:30 a.m., and she decided to beat Auntie to the punch, to go and check on Harmony. That was the problem with long breaks from school. Vacation meant the body no longer rose with the sun, especially when the goal was to see the taboo hour of midnight as many times in a week as possible. She stood at the door again. Same scene. The four, the quilt, the hair, the face. Same scene. So what was the problem? Exactly. Same scene. What was the problem? The four, the quilt, the hair, the face. In all those hours, and it had been hours, Harmony hadn't moved once. Not once. The four, the quilt, the hair, the face. Same scene. Same scene. Suddenly, Sprinkles wasn't standing at the door because she hadn't advanced, but she now knew it was because she couldn't. Her eyes immediately sought out her sister's chest, the chest that had risen and fallen only 2 surveillances ago. She desperately ached for that reassurance now. She stared until she had to blink. She stared again, harder. There it was, the movement. But it was wrong, all wrong. Not rising and falling, but unsteadiness interrupting the still. Her eyes were jumping, playing tricks on her, not seeing what was there, but what they expected. They were seeing what they'd seen before. Her fingers were throbbing, and she realized she'd been gripping the door frame like it was essential to her survival. She walked in slowly, 1 foot in front of the other, a mile between each step. The room was frigid. Her eyes scanned the length of her sister's body, from the bottom of her feet to the mask of her face. Harmony was typically a shade of caramel in contrast to Sprinkle's chestnut hue, but now this child's face was pale and her lips were indigo. Their beauty mark had vanished in a sea of inky blue as though it had never been there at all. Sprinkles touched her sister's cheek, cold. The recoil of her hand was so swift in the tightness of the room that it was audible. She couldn't breathe, as though the memories of inhaling and exhaling had vanished. She felt all at once dizzy, yet steady, above and outside herself, just a pair of eyes watching the physical her below pitch and yaw. The inner stirrings of her mind knew all, knew what was wrong, knew why Harmony was like this, but that knowledge, that recognition hadn't solidified in her brain and descended to her tongue. She couldn't say aloud, Harmony's dead, because it wasn't true. Not true in the sense that it was a belief she held to be indisputable and therefore a fact. Something in her was fighting it, the reality, with all that she had. Sprinkles felt a whimper rise in her throat, but it wasn't accompanied by tears. It was driven by a desperation that made her want to scream, but she couldn't. It was time to retreat, mentally, emotionally, from the reality, from the disaster. Mind talk bombarded the interior of her skull like mortar shells on an enemy front. Mind talk, her internal dialogue, the blissful ignorance finally come to the rescue. Pretty lies to make her believe that what she actually believed wasn't true. This isn't happening. This isn't real. I'm not standing here. She's not lying there like that. I'm only 11. Things like this don't happen to kids. Things like this don't happen when nobody's home. She's only 8. There's nothing wrong. I'm not here. She's not dead. She's not dead. I'm not here and she's not dead. She's dead. There's a precipice beyond which the psyche fractures, where splintered shards of sanity plunge into an abyss. Sprinkles saw this place clearly, as though looking through a window frame with no glass. Somehow, as though through wizardry, she summoned all the strength, courage, and will she had, even her reserves, and took a step forward. Her arm felt heavy as an anchor, and she raised it from her side and touched her sister again. She touched the exposed part of her chest where the undone buttons had left the cloth gaping, ice cold. She bit her lip. She touched her again, harder. She pushed her chest. Harmony moved, all of her. Her entire rigor-locked body rocked back and then fell heavily like wet earth to the place it was before. Sprinkles tasted blood. She'd bitten through her lip. She pushed again, harder this time. The same thing happened. The entire body, one jointless mass, the corner of the four in the air like a macabre contortionist. She jumped back. If helpless were a person, then Sprinkles would have been its daughter, young, terrified, and totally alone. At that point in her life, she'd never known less what she was going to do. Harmony? Her shaking voice sounded unfamiliar to her own ears. Silence. Harmony? Silence. Harmony! She yelled. Silence. She heard the front door close. Mama was home. Sprinkles walked to the front room as though her feet were not her own but somebody else's, and she was being carried. She stood 5 feet from Mama and watched her fuss with Todd, taking his jacket off and getting his walkers situated. The weight of a burdened presence is what finally made her look up. Hey, Sprinkles. Mama, I think there's something wrong with Harmony. Thank you.
Senyah, thank you for that amazing read. One thing I love about your reading is you made it seem so realistic. There are a lot of life does life a lot, especially dealing with death experiences. So being in the home to actually see your little sister passing away. And I know also in the story, it talks about, the father and stuff like that. So, and I know that a lot of people that we may know are, in this life, experience broken homes and stuff, and especially during this time. What do you think life was like for the family after everyone found out that Harmony had transitioned?
I mean, that's an interesting question because it can look different with every family dynamic, right? But, if I were going to go further into the story with character development, I would imagine that it was, as the title indicates, shattered. If you've ever known any mothers who've lost children, it's quite a devastating sight to behold, and they kind of maneuver differently than they did. Protective instincts go into overdrive, sometime into manic places. I would imagine that Sprinkles and Todd ended up having different maternal experiences because Sprinkles knew her mother before, and Todd, as an infant, would only know her mother post. So I would imagine that, it's just a probably several years of picking up the pieces and carrying on.
Thank you for that. And now we're going to have a question from the audience. I do see an audience member ask, "What's up with the aunt?"
Yeah, I get that a lot. Auntie sounds suspicious. She's just boo-boo. That's it. She's just boo-boo. There was no terminal illness that, Harmony had that we were watching out for in this story. There was no stranger danger around the corner. She's just a close family member. who had a feeling, why is she on my mind so much?
Yeah.
Go check on her. Just one of those things.
But thank you for answering that question. Thanks to audience member also for bringing that question up. We're going to now go to a commercial break. Thank you, Senyah.
Thanks so much, Shitty. Take care.
Hi everyone, I'm Danielle. I'm the owner and artist of Paintin' and Poppin' Traveling Paint Parties LLC. Remember, there's no G at the end of painting or poppin'. Contact me today to book your private, in-person, or virtual paint party. We are serving Chicago's South Suburb and Northwest Indiana. Parties start at $35 per person, and they also start at $25 per child. Virtual parties start at $40 per person. You have to have a minimum of 8 people and a deposit is required. You'll receive live instruction as well as all supplies needed for painting. Virtual parties are held via Zoom. Contact me today to get started. You can reach me at paintinandpoppin@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook at Paintin' and Poppin', or Instagram at Paintin' and Poppin' Parties. Remember, no G on painting or popping.